And that was pages from Night Owl BBS, kindly provided to us here at Wi-Fi Sheep, courtesy of Brian Martin. Night Owl should be online right now, so if you want to visit for yourself, you can via your own BBS client software. The address is nightowlbbs.dnss.net and it's on port 6400. That's port 6400. Alternatively, and possibly the slightly easier way to do it, if you want to visit online through the comfort of your own web browser, you can do so by visiting fish.ccl4.org/js-night owl. Once again, a huge thank you to Brian Martin for sharing the pages from Night Owl BBS. For the final time in 2024, a very good evening. You're watching youtube.com/Wi-Fi Sheep live. Hello, how are you doing? Good evening and Happy New Year. A very warm welcome to youtube.com/Wi-Fi Sheep Live for New Year's Eve Live with me, Tom, right here on the channel. In something that has become a tradition here on Wi-Fi Sheep, I've done a live stream now. I think it was 2022, my first one. Was it 21? It was something like that. Anyway, I'm here now tonight, and thank you so much for those of you that are going to join me. I say in person, but live on the stream to see in New Year and the year 2025 here on UK time, London time, Greenwich Mean Time, GMT 0100 hours. So we're about an hour away. This is the final hour of 2024. And here we all are at our computers, phones and laptops with not a lot else to do. Saying that, I don't know about what it's like where you are right now. There is a storm brewing out there. We've actually got weather warnings. I know it's pretty bad in Scotland. The rain started a little early this afternoon, about sort of 3-4 o'clock. The winds have really picked up. I'm on Windows 11. If those of you know Windows 11, the title bar at the bottom, you get little warnings. And I'm getting weather warnings literally as I'm looking at the streaming machine right now. It's currently saying 2 centimetres of snow on Sunday. Really? Okay, so this is going to be fun. Anyway, hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us. A few things I want to get through this evening. I hope you had a good Christmas as well. I hope that went well for you. I've had an interesting week. That interesting bit of time between Christmas Day and New Year's Day. Yeah. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Before we go any further, though, I should probably say hello and welcome, and that's the wrong slide. One moment. Pretend you didn't see that bit. Hello and welcome once again to our fantastic Patreon and YouTube channel members. There they all are, the fantastic people that have either joined and supported me this year or have been with me for a good few years now. Thank you so much to each and every one of you, especially those of you that this year, in 2024, I've actually had the privilege of meeting in person, mainly at the Cambridge Retro Computer Festival. So there's a few faces, a few names there that I can now put faces and voices to that I have met in person. And many of you, I'm sure we will meet at some point. Who knows, maybe in 2025. If you want to support me, support this channel and join them, you can do so. Patreon is patreon.com/Wi-Fi Sheep, or alternatively, there is always the YouTube channel members. I'm getting all my slides wrong tonight. YouTube channel members, there we go. Starting at 99 pence all the way up to £2.99. That's British pound sterling. That'll be converted into your native currency, or if it can't, it'll be shown in US dollars. I'm just having a look at my chat now saying, here we got JB, good evening from Eastern Time Zone, USA. Of course, so the USA, one of the last places to have Happy New Year. So you're going to join us while we do New Year here in the UK. And then you've got, is it 6 hours or 8 hours? 6 hours, isn't it? So you're behind us by 6 hours. Eastern Time Zone. So that's, New York. I know my geography. 6 p.m. EST, yeah. GMT -5. Okay, right. Yeah, so I'm trying to remember. Basically, the only one I seem to be able to remember is Beijing, which is +8. Because obviously my work, not so much this year, but previous work with the sponsors I mainly had from China. So having to do like live calls and things with them. So I was always more aware of Beijing time versus London time than I was the United States, if you know what I mean. Anyway. There we are. So we'll say hello to Paul O.B. Just passing by. Had a long day at work already. Happy New Year to you all. Happy New Year to you, Paul O. Thank you so much. Yes, Anna, my fiance, has actually been at work today, so she's quite tired. As you probably know, I've been off since the week. No, yes. When did I finish? It was the week before Christmas. So yeah. Because I'm in between contracts. So I'm going back to work again on the 6th of January. Back to where I was working before, doing the job I was doing before, but it's on a completely new contract. So a permanent rolling contract, so which is good. So I basically starting a new job, but going back to do exactly what I was doing before. If that makes sense. You'll have to excuse me. I nearly had a sneezing fit prior to just about to go live, and I was like, I'm going to sneeze, I'm going to sneeze. I'll be fine. Let's start the show, then I'll sneeze. So if I do dive off the camera quickly, you have to excuse me if you know what happens. Also, obviously, we might get some fireworks in the background this evening. But it's windy and rainy. It's really quite bad, about 42 mile an hour winds out there at the moment. And that's not the worst of it. And I said Scotland, much worse than us right now. So basically, I'm telling you this because obviously it might upset the dog. So you might hear some dog barking. She's fine. Anna's with her. She's actually kind of all right. But yeah, so just if you hear a dog barking in the background, that's kind of why. We'll also say hello to George and Andrew D as well. George, I don't know. Do I recognise your username? I don't know if I do, but you say you love the graphics and music. Yes, the kindly provided by Brian Martin, Night Owl BBS. I'm hoping this year to do another. We did a live show last year on BBS Lives, and I do want to cover a couple more BBSs and do a bit more support content for BBSs. So I just had this idea of wanting, and I've talked about this before, is filler content for the live stream. And for those of you in the UK that remember pages from CFAX, when the BBC used to run the CFAX teletext service in screen during overnight and in the early mornings, kind of as well as the test card. I'm showing my age now. For those of you who remember test cards and test patterns. So I just had this idea of it'd be kind of nice in the kind of slight downtime of the stream or those breaks, instead of just having holding cards, actually have something useful and interesting to look at. And again, huge thank you to Brian, who stepped up there and provided his Night Owl BBS service, which is driven from a BBC Master 128. And I was going to go and turn to mine that's not there. So that's a stupid thing to have done. Normally I have a BBC Micro set up there, and I haven't got, it's not there at the moment. It's up on the shelf, but yeah. So I want to do a few more things with BBSs. Am I going to run my own? No, I don't have time. I perhaps wouldn't mind doing like 1 or 2 pages of teletext graphics. That might be quite cool, but that's pretty much all I'd want to do. Anyway, how was everyone's Christmas? Yeah, mine was good. We managed without an oven. You may remember that our oven broke. So I was going live. It was the last 8 till 8, the normal live stream we do, by the way, which is normally Saturday at 2000 hours GMT. There won't be one this Saturday. The next one will be on January the 11th, which will be back to normal service. But I was about to go live, right? This would be like not 2 weeks ago, but about a week and a half ago, and we lost all power, complete power outage. Everything went. But it was really bizarre because it was just our house that went, which meant someone had tripped the main circuit breaker. Normally, with the way UK houses are wired, if you trip on the mains, it also like plug sockets. So plug sockets. There you are. British. Oh, there you are. Yeah, British 3-pin plug. If you trip the mains, the 230, 240 mains, it just takes the plugs out. It doesn't take the lights out. If the lights go, it doesn't happen nowadays because we don't use incandescent bulbs anymore. But if you had a light bulb that blew and it took the lighting circuit, it would either just take the upstairs or downstairs lighting circuit out, right? It wouldn't take everything else. To have something blow so spectacularly that it took everything out, cleaned out, and just the whole house went down, I was like, what on earth has blown up so spectacularly? And it wasn't evident until the other day where we tried to cook a pizza, just these takeaway pizza things. And the oven powered up but wouldn't heat up, and then we were like, the element's gone. The element must have blown, shorted, and of course the cooker is on a separate circuit directly tapped to the mains that comes into the house. Hence, if it has a problem, it trips the master. I was like, right, that's evident what it was. So Long story short, we basically did Christmas dinner without an oven, which was interesting. And bless her, Anna, my fiance, bless her, she really did so well. She borrowed an air fryer. The oven, we had the top grill part, we had the hob on top, and she borrowed an air fryer. And between those three things, without a main oven, she managed to do Christmas dinner for us, which was, she's not watching; she's downstairs. But I take my hat off to her. She did absolutely awesomely to do that. Anyway, so that was Christmas, and then literally, where are we now? I'm trying to think. So literally, then Friday just gone. Myself and Anna, we go and visit a used car dealership here in the town, because Anna needs to replace her car, and my car, again, those of you that remember from last year, I had terrible car problems, replaced it with another car, and now the other car is just as terrible. So we basically kind of both need cars, because we have to commute from here to Telford, which is one of the major metropolitan areas of Shropshire, where we both work. Different jobs, but that's where we both work. So we're mainly looking for a car for Anna, because hers isn't going to get through the MOT. To cut a long story short, we just bought 2 cars. Not new, you understand, used cars. And I'm just like, so between us, we've just spent about £13,500. And I'm just like, how on earth have we just done that? The argument being, you might, so they're about £6,500 each. Yeah, ouch. I didn't sleep the night before. I haven't slept the night after. That night I actually went up to my parents. So my mother rang me while we were in the dealership office, asking me, she didn't know what I was doing. She said, well, when are you coming up that evening? We had thick fog, by the way, over the weekend. So I drove from here over to Staffordshire, where my mother is, in the thick fog. But I said to her, she rang me in this dealership, I was like, can I call you back? We're just buying some cars. And she's like, you what? I was like, yeah, cars, as in plural. It's bad enough buying one. We bought 2. Oh, God, yeah. So, I don't like cars. I hate cars. And, yeah. And, I don't like spending that sort of money. I really don't. But, so basically, we're going to have, hopefully they'll be ready, because I'm having a bit of, well, one of them's having a bit of work done on it. The other, they're just, I think they're putting them for MOTs again for us. So we'll be doing the actual financial exchange on the 2nd. So we've then got to play the logistics game of getting to this dealership on the other side of town, picking these cars up, getting them insured and taxed, moving them, and then disposing of our current cars. And it's just like, that's going to be fun. So I'm just looking in the chat. What are we talking about? We're still on air fryers. Mini oven when our... So what's... Andrew D, we got a mini oven when our element blew on the main oven. It took ages to get it fixed. Well, yes, you say that. Yeah, I'll come to that in a minute. JB, I watched the Christmas Eve stream after the fact. I'm glad dinner turned out. Okay, thank you. Well, I can't take any credit for it. In fact, I can't take any credit for the whole thing being sorted. So Anna sent me a link to the part. This is not the first time this has happened to us, by the way. So I ordered it off Amazon. Wasn't very expensive. Probably the reason it blew up is it wasn't an expensive part. It's a cheaper compatible filament. So the part arrived. I went away for the weekend to go and see my parents, so I wasn't here. And Anna, bless her, actually went and replaced the filament part herself, or the element, I should say, herself. She is quite the engineer. She actually has formal so I don't have any formal engineering qualifications, which is ironic, but she actually does. But I work as an engineer and she doesn't. She works as a retail manager. So it's slightly ironic how things have turned out. But bless her, she just took a screwdriver, right, fixed the oven, and has, absolute star. So the oven is now back up and running, all done thanks to her, which is incredible. So yeah. Anyway, right, where are we? George, we have a round multifunction air fryer. Yeah, it's a sort of it's a kind of like a round air fry type thing that we borrowed apparently. So we're kind of umming and ahhing about getting one, or we were until we spent all the money buying cars. So, George, I have a 1964 MG that needs to be restored. Wood steering wheel, original wheels. I tell you what, actually, so I'm not really a fan of cars. Cars just stress me out. I mean, I need one because I have to drive, I have to commute, but to get to work, that's what a car is. But I hate. Basically, I'm running a Citroen. Anna at the moment is running a Peugeot. Basically, my advice to you, Wi-Fi Sheep top tip for this evening, is do not buy French cars. They are terrible, absolutely appallingly terrible. Both of them are just awful. I'm not just being picky about drive quality or anything like that. They are like technically awful, absolutely awful with the faults and the problems and just no. Anyway, the point I was trying to make is cars are a utility. Thank you, George. They absolutely are. As far as I'm concerned, they are. Don't get me wrong, right? So some of our students. This is where I work. So for those of you who don't know, and I talk about it enough, I'm what's called a mechatronics engineering technician. So I work as a technician in robotics, electronics, artificial intelligence for Harper Adams University, which is one of the few agricultural technology universities here in the UK. Basically, it's a farming college or farming university. So we have a lot of students, and a lot of our students are very kind of mechanically minded. So we get some very, very interesting student cars. I've had things like quite nice looking Ford Mustangs owned by students. And the other week, so it's like the last week, and I also work as a teaching assistant, as well as a technician engineer. I teach assist, and I do some lectures and some teaching. I'm not formally a lecturer or tutor, but I do some teaching and have done teaching at the uni, which is quite fun. But anyway, now the point I should say, so I was teacher assisting, and we look out the windows of this. I say it's not quite a lecture theatre; it's more of a classroom where we were. It's on the ground floor, and you can see the car park, and I can see the spokes of something sitting in the parking lot out back. And I kind of went outside to have a look at it, and it looked like an original I don't know what it was, but like a 1920s like open frame motor car with spoked wheels, wooden running boards, you know, the kind of classic traditional thing. Open top, by the way, with like a sort of a hood type thing over the top. And I thought, is that original? And it can't be original, but it had the black and white embossed number plates. Now in the UK, to have black number plates with white embossed lettering on, you have to have a vehicle that has to be manufactured or registered before, I think it's like 1977 or something like that. So otherwise it's not legal to have them. So assuming this was original legal, I was like, blooming hell, how old is this vehicle? Anyway, about half an hour later, I saw the student leaving. I kind of flagged him down in the car park, and I just said, I absolutely love this car. Is it original? And he's, by the way, the student, right, I kid you not, he's wearing a tweed jacket, almost like a straw hat type thing. That's not unusual for our university and the clientele we have. And anyway, he says to me, yes. He says the chassis, the engine, the running frame, the chassis is original. The body has all been rebuilt, but the actual chassis, so the main bulk of the motor car, was actually original, 1920s. That was a student's car that he was using to commute to lectures. And I was just like, wow, I love where I work, just for stuff like that. It just makes it totally worth it, you know. Oh dear. Anyway, where are we on chat? We'll say good evening to Brian Martin, who has had many a mention this evening. Night Owl BBS, of course. And George, if you didn't know, in the US, if you see a public university with the state in its name, and it was likely originally founded as an agricultural, or I didn't know that, as an agricultural or teaching college. No, I didn't know that. I know we had some. Where were they from? I want to say the University of Oregon. I can't. Do you know, it's terrible. I can't remember where. We had an exchange with a US university, so we had some American students actually come over. So we sent. It was a master's level students. These are the ones that are done the undergraduate course and are now studying an extra year to be a master student, basically. So they'll have a master's degree. So they went over to the United States, and then we had some students come over, and we actually did a robotics session. I was actually involved in that, again, teaching assisting, and we did a live artificial intelligent buggies. I've had the buggies here on the channel, the Atlas buggies. There is a video because I had one here where I'm allowed to bring my work home. So I actually had the buggies. But yeah, no, we had University of Oregon. I think it was University of Oregon. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, thinking about it. But yes, so they came over. I just remember that we had to translate a lot of everything for them. So instead of saying, basically, we took the robots out on the car park, but they don't say car park, they say parking lot. So you have to say, right, parking lot, right. Also, like the value of things. So the Atlas buggies are about, they're not terribly expensive, but the cost value of them is about £250 each to build. I had to convert that roughly into US dollars for them. So I said, oh, they're worth about 400, US dollars each, kind of thing. I'm trying to think what else now. Oh, and we had to think about, I can't remember the context of why we talked about this, but something about the schooling system, because it's very different here in the UK. So there was sort of, I think we're talking about when they may have experienced programming or done Scratch, sort of, oh, we might have done that in the 4th or 5th grade or something. So, right, how old are you in the 4th or 5th grade? Because that doesn't mean anything to us. We work here and work in year groups. So it's like, reception to year 11 is technically the school years. So that's 5 years old up to 16. Now in the UK, you have to stay in education till you're 18. So there's now technically a year 12, 13, but that's a little bit different because those two are classed as your college years. But college years, unless you do an apprenticeship, college years are now compulsory here in the UK, and a lot of people didn't realise that. So George can let me know. So 10, 11, yeah, okay, yeah. So 10, 11-year-olds would be year 6. Yes, that'd be year 6, which is the end of what we call primary. Then year 7 is 11 to 12 normally, and that's the beginning of what we call secondary school, and that takes you up to the 16. Whereas in my day, you could leave at 16. Everyone left at 16. Now you technically can't leave education to 18, and 18 would be your catchment year for university. And kindergarten, or what we call nursery or playgroup, it was playgroup for me. But yes, 4 or 5 years old, yeah, that's the same. Do excuse me while I'm gulping tea down. You'll also notice there is a clock. There's always a clock in the corner. I said clock, by the way. Nothing else. There we are. There we are. Pointed it. There we go. So I'm just paranoid about rabbiting at you, and then we miss New Year's. Like with Christmas, what happened on the Christmas live chat? If you remember, well, basically it went Christmas Day, and I was too busy talking that we kind of like a couple of minutes late. And I said at the time, we absolutely cannot do this for the New Year's live stream because that would just be really embarrassing. So I'm just looking at the chat. Where are we? Sounds like kindergarten here is equivalent to year 1 there. Yeah, well, Yeah, the preschooling system's changed a bit here. So basically, I think it's still the case. So you start at reception, which is like 5 years old, is when you start school. Some schools you can start at 3, but then it's more like what they call a creche or playgroup type things, as it used to be in my day. Not having children of my own, I have no idea. So I'm going back to the system of the 80s. When I was that age. So I don't know quite. It's something like that. Oh, excuse me. I got that tea too fast. Right, anyway, quite a few things I want to do. So I'm planning to be with you probably till about midnight GMT tonight. So looking at the clock, we've probably got about an hour. Yeah, an hour more or less. So quick, I was contemplating doing this or not because it's a bit, I feel it's a bit crass, but I thought we might do a very quick what do people get for Christmas type thing. By the way, you'll notice we still have the Aegon Light 8-bit board that we were looking at over Christmas. And why is that getting warm? It's not plugged into anything. Or maybe it is. Sorry, getting distracted. Okay, so that's that board. And then I have actually found out this is my original Raspberry Pi, 2011-2012 Raspberry Pi, which I've got the box for. And that's actually powered up at the moment. Okay, so we're going to look at that very shortly. Apologies for this. I'm going to... these cameras are manual, so just bear with me. It's probably too far now. Yeah, autofocus live. It's quite nice having manual cameras, although they don't autofocus. You can't do zooms efficiently with them. They don't, once you've locked them in focus, they stay in focus because they don't try and move them on their own. So I kind of like them. Anyway, right. We've got no desk space, so just bear with me. I think I've just killed something. Have I just killed something just by moving? That's ridiculous. Right, something monitor's just gone blank for some... Oh no, we're back. Okay. Right. So a few things I'll show you very quick. So, first of all, again, if you watch, I haven't done any videos on Wi-Fi Sheep Channel 2 for some time, but you know I did a Trains on 2 series because I want to do some more model railway based stuff, which I just haven't got around to doing. But this came from Anna. This is my fiance bought me this, bless her. So this is from Haljan, or Halgen, which is a Danish manufacturer. It's a British model, so it's 00. We talked about this before, but basically in America and on the continent, so Europe, you have N scale and you have HO scale. In UK, we don't use HO. We use something called 00, which is compatible with HO. It runs on the same HO track, but basically British models are slightly beefed up. So the models are a little out of scale compared to their wheel size. It's a little complicated, but we actually run what's called 00. Anyway, I'll just show you this very quickly. So this is a British Rail Class 25, ready to run diesel locomotive. And how complicated these things are getting now. They actually come with user manuals for a model train, which is ridiculous. Including the complete parts breakdown of each and every component. And you've got specifications, including voltage specifications, you've got function pin specifications, how to fit snow plows, blanking plates, etc. So very, very detailed. Let's just see if I can do this quickly, because I do not package these things up. I'll show you quickly. So you now get baggies of just all the little bits, the pipework, the plows, everything for sticking on the front. here we are, which is very nice. So very much a retro vintage type diesel locomotive. British Rail actually disposed of these about 1987, so I don't actually remember them because I was too young. But yeah, they were relatively local. And for my model railway projects, especially if I'm going to build a new layout I'll take out to public shows, you want small, compact, what are called Bobo locomotives. And Bobos because they have 4 wheels on each truck or bogie. So basically, the configuration is known as Bobo. Most North American diesels actually are Bobos as well. But it's a short, twin-cabbed, twin-ended locomotive. Ideal if you're going to run them back and forth. So instead of going around in circles, you're going to build a layout that's what we call end-to-end. You need something that can shunt in and drive back out again and doesn't take up a huge amount of space. So that's why something like this is absolutely ideal for a project I'm planning on doing. I'm planning on doing a sort of an 1980s style layout of an actual place that's local to this sort of area. So it's quite nice to have presents like this. I do need to fit it with a chip, a digital command control chip. If anyone is familiar with, is that coming that way? I can't remember now. Yes, it does. Anyone is familiar with CAN bus, the automotive data bus system used in cars? I wasn't until I started at the university, because we use it at uni. I've never used it because I don't come from an automotive background. And I was reading up about CAN bus, and I was thinking, this seems very familiar. And then realised that digital command control, or DCC, which is the digital system that you can fit to model railway locomotives, is a variation of CAN bus. And that's why I recognised it. So I was thinking, I did know it. I know more than I thought I did. And basically it allows you to drive multiple locomotives independently of each other on the same piece of track at the same time. You can also add things like Bluetooth support and sound, onboard sound, and things like that, which I'm sort of getting through doing at the moment. That's why, and I did show these last time, I bought these, which are from Hornby, which is one of the better known brands here in the UK for model trains. HM DCC, this is the HM 7000. These are Bluetooth DCC sound decoders. And I've read at Hornby, they are compatible with other makes. So this actually has a little chip and a speaker, which you can fit inside this model and actually add sound to this model locomotive, which is something I am hoping to do at some point in the near future. So I'll just pop that away. Something else I got, which is here. So this actually came from my mother. Because she said, what do you want? And I said, I don't know. And I was looking at these on Amazon. Now this is a multi-band radio receiver. It's not a transceiver. It's not a broadcasting module. It's just a radio receiver. But it's something I was looking at on Amazon. And it's multi-band FM, AM, medium wave, short wave, and also has the ability to do SSB, LSB, USB, sideband receiving frequencies. It's actually very, very cool. It's a little metal box with, and these ends are actually printed PCBs. We've got a BNC, I can get that out. There we go. Got a standard BNC type jack, and it actually comes with a BNC attached to a standard type radio telescopic radio antennae. I do plan to do some content on shortwave radio and radio DXing and hobbies again on channel 2. I just haven't got around to it. For those of you that don't know, because I don't talk about it much, is I am actually ham radio licensed. So I do actually have a call sign. I am registered and licensed in the UK as M6IDT, although I've never actually done any broadcasting. But I am allowed to, and this is a bit more than CB radio, but this is sort of, it's still amateur, but it's more professional amateurs. You have to take an exam and be licensed. and I am actually licensed in the UK to transmit as M6IDT, so I can own radio equipment and technically broadcast things if I wanted to. I'll be honest with you, I'm slightly more interested in receiving things at the moment, and that's where these little receivers came in. So this was, I think, about £29, under 35-40 US dollars. And it's actually really quite nice. It's USB-C charged, has a battery on board. If we turn it on the back, has a headphone as well, but it also has an inbuilt speaker. So I'll turn it on. It's actually Arduino powered, so it's an Arduino microcontroller. Just there we go. So it's set to AM, and there is the frequency. So many of you might just be familiar with FM and AM, and this does the normal FM and AM. But AM is actually the medium wave, but there's also the long wave, and there's the short wave. So there's a whole world of international radio. And I've got to be careful what I try and pick up here, because if we get any music or anything, I'm going to have a copyright problem. But there's a whole world of international radio, and there is actually a hobby called DXing, which is where you actually just try to receive international radio broadcast over the analog airwaves, so purely through this aerial, which we'll try and extend actually. It's going to be a bit awkward to do this without hitting the wall, but... So we've got volumes and we've got bands. We can actually flick. See, I can flick through the bands. I don't think, unfortunately, because I'm in this room, we're not going to get an awful lot. I don't think we'll tune anything in tonight. Generally at night, they generally tend to be slightly further down the bands. So actually, this is measured in kilohertz. We've been very lucky if we actually do pick anything up. But I do want to do a full video with this properly set up in a proper rig. But basically what you can do is use the internet to assist. So, just turn that off a minute. So basically, things like shortwave, it is more than just CB. But shortwave radio has sort of been, it's quite an old, it's one of the oldest forms of radio communications. It's dating back over 100 years. And in the modern age of satellite and mobile and internet, it's very much been superseded. However, it is quite useful to have as a backup system, because it does allow for state operators or privateers to broadcast programming in various languages from a host country to the rest of the world. And theoretically, the rest of the world can pick up through quite modest means, admittedly not at night, not in bad weather conditions, and not inside a brick structure like this. But normally it works quite well. And it's also just very interesting from a hobbyist perspective to see what you can actually pick up. Admittedly, a lot of the content isn't amazing. It generally tends to be propaganda or religious broadcasting. A bit like AM radio in sort of the southern United States. There's a lot of that sort of programming that gets beamed out over the shortwave. But what you can do, if we just head over to see where I'm at. There we go. I'll show you this. So if we go over to Edge browser, and this is a site called short-wave.info, and this will actually tell you all the commercial published schedules that are currently available or that are meant to be happening on the shortwave. So what I can do is I can just say, you can pick a particular broadcaster. So I could, for example, see everything from the BBC, which does broadcast on the shortwave band. But we'll just say any station. We've got languages, so we'll keep English at the moment. And we can say what's on right now at 23:40 GMT. So we'll hit go. And it gives you this live map of every frequency and where they are in the world It should be technically broadcasting right now. So, so this is for the religious, American religious content that you do get, Overcoming Ministry, which is slightly notorious, I'm afraid. Broadcasting on 3955, or apparently might be broadcasting on 3599 in Germany. So you can actually see, if I hover over, it actually shows you on the map where the transmitter is. So we're here in the UK and there's the transmitter. Is it possible to pick up? What on earth is going on with that advert? Okay, I haven't got an ad blocker on this. Right, so it shows you what's actually broadcasting, or what might be broadcasting on 3955. So what we could do is we could tune to 3955 and see if we what we've got going on. So if it's just so I know what 3599 normally is, so we'll just see. Okay, if it is just playing music, we've got 3 points, and we'll just change the steps. So we step up in 10. So 3, 9, 5. Yeah, nothing really there. Change the steps. So 395. Did we say 3955? I think we did. Yeah. So unfortunately, there is something there. It's very faint, unfortunately, because the weather. It's not. Shortwave doesn't work particularly well in the winter, and it doesn't work very well at night. I don't know if I could just. I don't know if we can set up some filtering. I did test this earlier in the day and it was working, but yeah, so we can't pick it up, unfortunately. And actually you can hear that's picking up. There's something sitting on that band that it doesn't like. So it could be something local in this room, such as the Wi-Fi. It's all radio frequencies, so we're picking up something that's interference that's jamming the signal, which is what that noise is you can hear. So yeah. So what I need to do is I need to set this up better and do this video during the day, because this is not a particularly good demonstration. But also I'm a bit limited because of obviously a lot of the stations are going to be broadcasting music, and if they're broadcasting music, that's obviously going to be a copyright issue. So I don't really want to get a copyright strike, but take my word for it, it is interesting. And Joel's saying it could be all the electronics you have. Yes, it probably is the electronics. I'm not in the best place to try and receive this. If I was, I probably need to set up a wire on this and send the wire to an aerial outside or something. We could probably get it to work. This does work really well. It has worked really well, but I've normally been at the back of the house by the window. And I actually have just a length of wire, which I can just literally crudely wrap around this. And that goes out the window from the top floor down the garden to a pole, and it just strings out kind of like that, a bit like a washing line, and it just allows you to pick up so much more than just having this kind of in an enclosed space where we've got, as you've said, a lot of electronics, unfiltered electronics running at the moment. So yeah, that's probably what you were hearing. So what we JB, have you heard of Report of the Week YouTube channel where he does fast food reviews? He also has a shortwave radio broadcast. He just likes the older technology, so he's done that on top of YouTube. He was nicknamed Review Bra by his listeners. No, do you know what? I haven't come across that. Come across a few things, but no, not come across that. I've been trying to pick up US station. There's a couple of international shortwave commercial broadcasters. Radio Miami International, WMIT, and there's WC. I can't remember them now. That's going to drive me insane. Hang on. Let's go back to the... I can't remember them. Where are we? That's going to annoy me otherwise. Just bear with me. WRMI, yeah. So there's WRMI, which I can't get reception on here. A lot of these stations, ironically, stream online, so you can pick up the feeds via the internet, which kind of defeats the object. But WRMI out of Miami and WBCQ. But actually, there's a few others as here. WWCR I've never managed to pick up. But basically, if the stations are in the US on the East Coast, there is a possibility of picking them up, and I have picked stuff up in the early hours here. Very, very faint signals from these stations, but it'd be nice to pick up because some of the programming on, especially, where are we? WRMI, they do some technology and radio programming, sort of like radio enthusiast programming, like Wave Scan is one of their shows they do. So it'd be quite nice to try and pick that up. Going back to frequency 3955. 3955 is actually operated in Germany by a service called channel 292.de, and 292 actually run three frequencies. 3955, which is what you normally can pick up after dark here in the UK, 6070, which you can't pick up here. You can pick it up in Central Europe, but I can't. I've never got reception here. And then internationally, there's 9670, which only really works during the daylight hours, can run for a couple of hours after dark, but is their international frequency that technically is meant to be picked up everywhere. And if you go to their website, you do need a translator because it is normally in Germany, or German, I should say. You can actually get the schedule. So basically, the way this works is that other broadcasters or radio entrepreneurs can purchase transmission time on one of these frequencies and broadcast their own program. So these are all the channels or other radio stations that are actually broadcast or buying time in Germany to broadcast. It's all fully legitimate and legal. They like to go with a pirate radio, pirate ship theme, but it is legitimately legal to do this. So you can actually buy airtime to broadcast your program. And you see where it has the R's and the S's? That's because this frequency, 9670, is directional, and you can actually ask them to turn the transmitters to point in a certain direction. And I think R is to point at the UK, so it'd be from Germany to point at the UK. If they don't have a letter, it's just broadcasting radially, so you might get a slightly weaker signal, but it would all be pick upable across the entire of the European continent and possibly as far as the United States. To get to Australia or something like that, it's not impossible, but it would be very difficult, and it would be better done in the summer when you have the ionosphere, which is sort of the way signals bounce back down to Earth. When it's better and stronger in the summer, you get better magnetic fields, you're able to broadcast much clearer signals. In the winter, you just don't get the sunlight to build up that background energy. But I find this all absolutely fascinating. It's been sort of something I've been sort of following for a while, with a view of possibly, and I'll just show you, this is the one we were trying to pick up, 3955, the possibility of maybe renting some space myself. I have had an informal chat with them about the idea about doing a Wi-Fi Chic branded shortwave technology radio show. Kind of like this, but a bit more scripted and controlled. So this is why this is very interesting, and also renting time in Germany to do it. So 3955, I'll show you here. You'll notice there's 2 blocks here at 6 in the morning and then 8 and 9 o'clock at night, GMT, where it says blocked from transmission at Wufferton. Wufferton Transmission and Signalling Centre is only down the road from me here in Shropshire. It's on the Shropshire-Herefordshire border, so south of the county. And it was formerly, it's now privately owned, but it was formerly a BBC transmission station. And it's used by Japanese, and what's the Japanese broadcaster? I've forgotten the name now. The Japanese state broadcaster, and there's a French broadcaster that uses it. So it's ironically not transmitting English language programming. But basically, when they broadcast, they actually broadcast on 3955, blocking channel 292. So you can't book programming in those slots. When Wufferton's on the air, my God, because I'm only up the road, and this is a worldwide international broadcast, the signal is so strong coming in on 3955 when they're broadcasting. But as I said, unfortunately, the programming is not in English, so it's of little value. But still, it's a curiosity. Now you can actually see it's giving you an update report. So it actually tells you the conditions. So VHF is very bad. HF is poor to good. And it gives you some live data, so it's, yeah, not amazing at the moment. You do need to translate the site because it is all in German. They've actually got the show this the propagation scales. This actually shows you how the signal is propagated and radiated. Which I'll be completely honest. Well, this actually explains. So 3955 you can't pick up during the day. So during daylight hours, there's practically no reception. But at night, normally at night, you see how it spreads out virtually all over the world, kind of not hitting the US terribly well. Well, it sort of does a little bit in the early hours, but I can pick up 3955 very, very well at night when I can't pick up 9670 that kind of disappears. You get to about 9 o'clock at night and then it'll disappear off the air. You just can't pick it up. But yeah. So this is all something I'm going to do a more detailed planned video on at some point. Yes, NHK. Sorry, I was away from my chat. Yes, NHK was the Japanese state broadcaster who used time at Wufferton to transmit programming. So yeah. And then George is asking, am I going to be adding more content to the Grow Up Garden Farm channel? I am. I've neglected it. I've not neglected the garden farm. I just haven't got any content. I shot content. So for those of you that don't know, let me just go back to me. Hang on. Right, there we are. That's me. So for those of you who don't know, we have the Wi-Fi Sheep has 3 channels. So there's this, which is Wi-Fi Sheep. There's Wi-Fi Sheep channel 2. This is all on YouTube. And then there's the Grow Up Garden Farm channel, which I haven't done any content on for a while. Basically, that almost ends up being Chicken Diary. So that's what I'm doing with growing crops and keeping chickens and trying to live the good life. And I have shot. What's annoying with it is I do shoot content and then I don't get around to editing the content. And by the time I get around to editing the content, we are months later. And I'm like, well, we're sort of completely out of season. I'm trying to do it sort of live for season. And yeah, so I'm kind of just bad at not uploading the content. Also, personally, I don't trying to get too sentimental, but it's a little bit upsetting because obviously we've lost some chickens, and the livestock that we have, the chickens, yes, they're there to lay eggs, but they are sort of pets. They've all got names, and we treat them a little bit too well. So it's a little sad when you're doing editing content from 6 months ago, and then your favourite hen's dead or has died since, and yeah. So, but no, I do intend to sort of that. Yes, I'm. Thank you for that, JB. I'm aware we've got 5 minutes to go before we call in the new year. Yes, I'm not going to forget. I mean, we could if we want to. We could just. Oh, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. There we go. We want to. We could just stare at the clock if you like. Right. We're not going to miss this. Everybody is going to sit here and we're going to watch the clock. Until, yeah, George says, rule number 1, not to name the animals. I know. Well, we didn't with the, I mean, the hens I've got are literally for laying eggs, so they're not meat birds. We don't eat them. Quail, which are a small game bird, for those of you not familiar with quail, they're a bit like a sparrow, a bit bigger than a sparrow. Yeah, quail, we had eggs, and I did use the egg. We did, because we had male and female. So I've only got hens. I haven't got a cockerel or a rooster, so we can't hatch. None of my eggs are fertile here, so we can't hatch any new chicks. But quail we could, because we did have male and female. And I did a whole hatch, and we raised some bird. And I have to say, one of the things I have done is I hatched quails. I raised them, fattened them up, and I then culled them, butchered them. That's including doing all the processing, cooked them, and ate them. So I'm one of those very few people that can actually say I've produced some meat from an animal from the hatching of an egg all the way through the entire life cycle to actually consuming the bird that I'd hatched. And we did that once, and it was okay. I mean, culling, I mean, I don't like killing things. I really don't like, I mean, I eat meat. I'm very happy to eat meat. No problem with that at all. I think we got to the point where we thought, unless an animal was in severe distress and the kindest thing to do was to put it out of its misery, we weren't going to be in the business of trying to kill things. So we did the quail, and I can cull quails okay. It's not nice, but it's doable. But chickens, no, I prefer not to. I just, yeah. So we don't need to raise chicken meat. There's no, we can go to the supermarket. You know, eggs is different, but we don't need to do chicken meat. There's no real value in it. Anyway, so I will be doing some updates for the garden farm, and this year, which could be our last year here, because I said in the Christmas stream, we are planning on trying to buy a house, myself and Anna ourselves. This house here, the one I'm sitting in right now, is owned by my father, and he'll want it back by 2029. So we need to move, and this is an opportunity for us to buy our own house, but that means I don't quite know what I'm going to have garden wise. Anyway, there we go, we're on time for the final 20 seconds of 2024. Once again, thank you everybody who has stayed with me and has been with me for the past year here on Wi-Fi Sheep. It's been a huge amount of fun, and here's to next year and the years after. A very happy new year. I'm a minute early. Right. Oh, I had that timed. I'm a minute early. Oh, right, okay. Right, yes. So I was saying that the fireworks just gone off outside, so I think someone's a minute early as well. Right, let's try that again. I swear to God, I did this so much more efficiently last year. This year it's like, whatever, I'm here. Right, the last 15 seconds of 2024. There we go. Should we count down? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. There's the fireworks. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year. January the 1st, 2025, here live on youtube.com/Wi-Fi Sheep. A very happy new year to you all, and thank you so much for all of you that have stayed with me and joined me for this live stream so far. We're going to do another half hour or so. We might actually get around to doing what we were meant to do tonight. What I will say though, you leave my analog clock alone. I like this. I'm hoping to replace, I keep saying this every year actually, hoping to replace the graphics. Wi-Fi Sheep is long overdue a graphics overhaul. And it is on my cards of things to do. And also a switch from 720p up to a full 1080p. And I keep talking about it, and I said last year we'd do it, and the year before I said would be, midsummer, and I've just not ever got round to just doing it. Because I've been very busy with life, unfortunately. So, but we're hoping going to do a new... Yeah, George, everyone says the logo. It is, but it's 2016, that one. And I think the new identity, which a few of you have actually seen. I don't know if I can bring up the new... I shouldn't do this ad hoc, actually, because this will just break. Let's have a think a minute. Have I got any new identity I can show? I have shown it. This is where I go off piece and start breaking things, which is never good. Just bear with me. That's not the right folder. I did have some of these, and I can't figure out what I've done with them. There we go. So, and this is where everybody goes, oh, I don't like that. So just bear with me a minute, because these are slightly overscaled, because they're for full 1080. But yeah, so that's basically, people have seen this on and off, but that will be the new graphics package and the new logo, which I am working on the motion graphics for it. Basically, that's what the delay is. So that's going to be the new identity, new theme, new graphics, slightly new way of doing things. But yeah, I think it'll be for the best, and it just means everything can be shot in 1080p. And if it can be shot in 1080p, then YouTube's algorithms might like it a bit more. So that's the plan. So maybe this year, I don't want to put a date on it now, but maybe this year we'll get on with a new identity. And we'll say Happy New Year to Brian, who's been contributing with the Night Owl. Which reminds me, actually, yes. So that is, yeah, everyone says they like the old logo, but that's the new corporate identity, which is yeah. So we're keeping the sheep, the mascot, but it's yeah. Anyway, well, I remember Night Owl. You saw earlier on. Brian, I assume if you're here, Night Owl is actually running at the moment. So if anyone wants to hop over and say hi, or go and log into Night Owl, then there is the details on screen right now. Personally, myself, because I'm lazy, I just go through the web portal with fish.ccl4.org/js-night-owl, hoping to have Night Owl and a couple of other BBSs featured in, I say, New Year. This year we'll do another special, 8 till 8 BBS special. Hoping to get a couple of other people to come on board, and we'll go and do some classic BBS surfing live, which is sort of the plan. Anyway, there we go. So, right, now what else are we talking about today? Right, yes, let's do, because we're going to run out of time. I was worried we weren't going to have enough content tonight. But, anyway, right. So, on the desk, let's just talk about what we were doing last time. So last time we looked at the Argon, or Agon, I should say, Lite 2, which is this Z80 board. We did this on the Christmas stream. Olimex board, and I've bought one, not sponsored, I've generally bought one. So there we go. And basically it's Z80 with a couple to an ESP32, and it supposedly runs, well, it does run BBC Basic. So what we were trying to do was have a look at some BBC Basic that I had written for the original BBC Micro, and we were trying to port it straight across. And we were having huge problems with it not liking the files. I was saving to SD card and it wasn't liking the files. And then when we actually tried to run the basic code, the basic, because it's BBC Basic, was valid, but it was not, we weren't getting the results that we were getting under the BBC emulator. Now, at the time, I said it would be interesting just to see what would happen if we ran under a Raspberry Pi with RISC OS. Hence why I've got my original RISC OS, by the way, runs up to Raspberry Pi 400, 4 and 400. It can't run on 5 or 500. So that's why I got my original Raspberry Pi out in 2012. And we're running, I can just find my, here we are. So we're running RISC OS Direct. This is not the newest version, but this is the last version of Direct that I was involved with. So you might remember I did the RISC OS Direct video series here on the channel. I'm not involved in RISC OS Direct or its development anymore. So, but this is just what I've got to hand. So this build is fine, from the 16th of December to 2020. So basically, one of the features of RISC OS that I like is that it does have BBC Basic built in. And although it's a 32-bit build of BBC Basic 5, it is more or less compatible. I'm getting distracted. I'm going to come to the chat in a minute. Let me just finish my sentence. It's more or less compatible with the 8-bit BBC Basic 1 and 2 found on the BBC Micro. Gentlemen, have I made a typo? Have I done something? Have I got something wrong somewhere? If someone wants to get back to me, is something not right? Have I done something? You can let me know. And if so, why wasn't this picked up the other week on the BBS slide? Hang on. For everyone else, just bear with us a moment. Right. Oh. Right. Yes, okay. Does that mean no one was paying attention last week? Okay, that's embarrassing. I will say in my defense, and I say this generally, I know it's going to sound like a terrible excuse, but I am actually quite heavily dyslexic. So, and I do try and check everything, and that must have just slipped through the net. So I apologise. I am terrible with names, as you know. Right, I do apologise, but I'm very sorry. I will get that corrected. I don't know. You try and do a nice thing, and it all just, yeah. Apologies. I will get that sorted. Anyway, right, back to this. So, what I wanted to see was we ran a program. We ran a program on the emulator on. I've got too many computers going on BBEM, which we just go. Sorry, that's the wrong slide. I meant to go down here. BBEM, there we go. So it's still ticking over as the BBS at the moment. So we just escaped the BBS. And we'll just do a reset. So this is BBEM, and it's just running on Windows. So basically, Brian sent me a disk image, BBC Micro disk image, a program with the slides, because BBC Micro has what's called Mode 7, which is teletext mode, or BBS mode. And so that's how we're running it. And I'm just porting that through OBS so you can see on screen. But it also means we can use it to load up other BBC Micro images. And one of the things we were trying is, I'm just going to try and navigate to it, is, just bear with me. Let's get the right folder. I appreciate you can't see the folders, so just bear with me a moment. I think it was this one. Okay, so I've loaded a virtual disk image in. Make sure I'm on the right keyboard. We just catalogue the drive. Yeah, so it's this file called DD, which I'll just load. Keyboard not set up right. There we go. DD. So my base of my keyboard here is an American QWERTY board. It's not, and BBC was set up as British QWERTY. So there's a few things like the @ symbol and the quote marker in different places. So just have to remember to type it incorrectly if you like, to type it correctly for the emulator. Anyway, right, so we load DD and we just list. So this was the program, and if we run, which does this, okay? This program, just to recap, was one of the very first bits of very bad BASIC that I wrote when I was going back to schools. So I would have been 10, 11 years old, the end of primary school, which would have been year 5, year 6 of primary school. And we had BBC Micros, loads of BBC Micros. We were quite a poor school, so we had all the hand-me-downs. And I found the one programming book, which I do actually still have, the one sort of programming book, which is this one here, that hadn't been scrapped. So we weren't taught computing at all, programming. We used them as word processors, basically. But this was the one book I found which introduced me to the world of BASIC and programming. And from that, and this is the only book we had, there was no formal training, we didn't have the user manuals, and there was no internet at this time. So from that, myself and a friend at the time scrabbled together, and what we came up with was this, which was a kind of slightly terrible idea of a logo program, which you could sort of go draw 100. It's terrible. 100, 100. Oops, I've spelled draw wrong. Draw 100. There we go. And you could sort of, it's fundamentally flawed, but you could draw things on the screen. Anyway, cut a long story short, we tried this code on the Aegon Lite and it didn't work properly. So I said it'd be interesting to see how well, if at all well, this would actually work on RISC OS. Hence, there we go. I've got Notepad and I do have a text file with the source code. So, and this is again where we start breaking things. If I take a USB stick and I'll just plug that into the streaming PC where this file is, and we just do a save as, and we'll save it onto the data stick. Okay, that's saved. Should have checked that properly. I'm not going to. Right, so if we now go over to RISC OS, by the way, because I'm using a 4:3 aspect, RISC OS will stretch to the proper aspect ratio. That's why the desktop pattern is a bit strange, but I'm running it in a 4:3 mode, just because I've got a 4:3 monitor here. So let's put this now. This will probably take the Pi off like it does. Yeah. Didn't you love these original Raspberry Pis? Seriously. They can't, you put a data stick in and they can't handle it, and they have to power surge and do a restart just when you put a data stick in. The original Raspberry Pis were not particularly reliable. They're very bad on their voltage regulation. And I'm running it with a more modern Pi 3 power supply, believe it or not, just to give it a few more amps. So 5 volts, what were they, 2.2 amps, 2.3 amps or something. Anyway, there we go. It loads back in. The other thing about RISC-OS is this is running on an original Pi and it's lightning fast compared to the Linux builds. Anyway, there we go. Right, so I have got some other programs I've already put on here, but let's go to the data stick and it's that one there. And do copy, drag, drop. Okay. I won't take the data stick back out because if I do, I'll probably trip the system again. So there is the file .bas. Now oops, right, click and we go File, Set Type. You see where it says Text? So if I say Basic, it now shows it as a basic file. Now, double click, line too long. Interesting. Let's shift double click. Okay. So that is the same source code. Let's just check that is the same source code. So let's go back to, right, let's just bear with me. Right, so let's just put this into a sensible mode so we can see what we're looking at. Mode, let's go mode 1. Okay. Interesting. I mean, this code is fundamentally flawed anyway. The VDU command is just ridiculous. It's not how you do stuff. And we didn't know what we were doing. So we just sort of did this and hoped for the best. It's just interesting to see how this sort of works on the original BBC Micro. Executed, but didn't work properly, didn't display anything on the Aegon Lite. And now we're here on RISC-OS. If we run. Okay, no, that has now run. Interesting. There we go, it is now running. And by the way, I'm getting strange screen aspect ratios from mode 2, which is something to do with the way this is rigged up. But that's similar to what we had going on, yeah. Basically, it's a rubbish program. And that's all you need to know. So one of the things I wanted to do was to do a basic project to actually rewrite this into a kind of a pseudo logo drawing type program that would work on an original BBC Micro, which was originally written for, RISC-OS, the Aegon Lite board, and also if we could actually get it ported over to our own tiny basic Project Rio system, that would be really cool. We should be able to do a port. So I want to kind of clear the legacy of, 7 lines of appalling code that I don't really understand what we did. I mean, I know this VDU command is just stupid. So, I mean, if we, just out of interest, we just commented that out with a rem, it's ignoring it anyway. I don't understand why we sort of did this strange, I don't know why we did this because we don't know what we're doing, as I said. So that's something to look at. We'll just disregard. Okay, so, but I have, while I was setting up for tonight, I have actually got a few other programs which I can show you quickly. So this is, actually I've already got a copy of DD there. Yeah, which is the next thing. So basically, I used to do loads of basic tinkering. This was in the early days of Raspberry Pi, so around 20. When did I start using RISC-OS? End of 2014. And basically, I just picked up BBC Basic as such an easy programming language and just started writing things on the Raspberry Pi. At that time, I was really just using RISC-OS on the Pi because it was so much better, so much faster than the Linux builds. And for what I wanted to do, which was tap basic as if it was a BBC Micro, it made a lot of sense. So I did all these different programs, things like Disco Cursor, if you can see that. And we did some of these will run a bit fast, by the way. We did some line tests. And I did do this something called Shoot Game, which is broken. And was that my 3D engine? And I did a wireframe 3D engine. What's the zoom command on this? I can't remember what it was. It's not a very good 3D engine, you understand, but I was just testing things. But I did do this little. This was from the BBC Micro. I did this line Etch-a-Sketch style line painter. And again, I don't know why we're getting this slightly strange. It should be full screen, but it's mode 2. And you can actually just press the numbers to change the colours. And what we can do is we can shift. And you can see there's the source code. So this is me writing much better, much more efficient BASIC. You'll also notice that under RISC-OS, and this is only under RISC-OS, you don't actually need the line numbers. If you're not using a go-to statement, so you're not quoting a line you need to go to or go back to, then you don't need the line numbers. So it will just run. So I say slightly more modern, but you get the gist. Johnny, what else did we do? There is. I'm going to find it. Where are we? It's not there. That's off-the-shelf software. There we go. Right. So I did create this, which was a little Space Invaders type, simple, all written in BASIC. I think this was original. I can't remember. Was this on the BBC Micro originally, or did I do this straight on RISC? I can't remember. All written in BBC BASIC. Stuff like this would be very interesting to actually see if it will run. I doubt it will run, you know, but it'd be interesting to see would it actually run on the Argon. Anyway, I'm not going to get that last one. But anyway, right. I've also got Silver Mountain. You might remember, and I've got the book. Actually, the book's just up here. So you might remember I did a video a little while ago now where we looked at one of these typing adventure books. This was the Mystery of Silver Mountain. And it's this listing that you had to type in, and it had all the graphics for the game basically were actually there in the actual book because it was just a text adventure. And we typed this in on the BBC Micro, and then we did a port to the C64, and I then did let's go back to, there we go, and then did a sort of like a version with an icon for RISC-OS as an actual what they call Pling application program. And here is the source code, and see where it says line numbers can't be stripped, because it references the line number. So there is it was a straight BBC Micro source code, not altered or changed in any way. That's BBC Basic. And when you executed it, I did this splash screen, which actually has a typo in as well. They are ported to RISC-OS version 0. If you are on my general downloads Patreon backers, that's the £3 tier. This is available for download. This particular, well, you can download this. The source code you can get for free, obviously. But this port I've done you can actually download if you want to have a play of it. So I'll start a new game. You see how this works. It's not particularly amazing. West. Oh, you need to have caps lock on. West. West. A troll stops you at the bridge. You are at the end of the bridge. You can go east or west. West. You can't kick in nuts. Who remember? Well, I'm a little bit too young to remember these text adventures, playing them in for real or in anger. But I don't know. People remember kind of just getting frustrated and sort of just typing in all sorts of random stuff. There are some more modern ones that use AI where it actually does respond to what you type in, and people who try and abuse the system can kind of start going in weird places really quickly. But no, this is something else that I think would be quite good to see if we could actually port. So I'm just wondering if we could. Can I copy that? I'm trying to think now. Can I copy that? Do I need to copy it? I do. So copy, and we'll just dump the source code outside the application itself. So option. Let's paste on this. Gone. Oh, I'll tell you why. Because you don't do it like that. You do that. There we go. RiskOS is a little bit strange. Once you get used to it, once you get used to it, it does flow very nicely. I will give it that. And then we need to set type, which is down there. Set it to basic. I'm just going to set this to BBC. So it's now reading as a BBC file. Right. Going to take the data stick out. Okay, that hasn't brought the system down. Going to put the card reader into the Raspberry Pi. That's probably going to bring it down. Or do I try it into the hub? So far, so good. So if we take, how are we doing for time? We are really out of time, unfortunately, because I've just spent most of it waffling. But let's carry on. Right, let's try and get this. So taking the SD card out of the Agon, sorry. Put the SD card in here. Okay. So the SD card, which is FAT formatted, has now appeared here. So we've got BB. Okay. So, you know, we tried to save stuff as BAS and we weren't getting anywhere. And then we saved DD2 as BBC. Interesting. So, if I now copy you onto there. Also, RiskOS frustratingly swaps dots and slashes. So slashes are file extensions and dots are the equivalent of slashes are directory marks. So there's something else just to be very aware of. So let's just change this file name again. Rename. I'll just call it mount slash BBC. Okay. Right, so that's that done. Take the card out. We will have to shut down. And by the way, RiskOS shuts down instantly. I do like RiskOS. I have had to walk away from it sadly because in the modern age it's in, it's a relic of its time, and I think some people just wouldn't really accept that, which is a shame, really. But anyway, right. So we can turn Raspberry Pi off. He says I've turned the wrong one off, but never mind. Right, let's put the iPhone charger. That's got the Aegon light. Aegon light needs to go in there so we can see what we can see, and we need to borrow the keyboard, which is going to go in there. The SD card, which I have just put somewhere. Where I put that? Just put the SD card down. I don't know what I've done with it. Okay, that's not good. Just taking the SD. What have I done with it? Just having a moment now. Do you know what? I do this so often. Oh, there we are. Where you've got stuff, you just like put it somewhere and you think, I don't know what I've done with that. It's like, right, okay, so card back in there. Okay. We power up. Beep. And there we go. Okay, so this is Z80 BBC Basics. So if I now go see on here, there we go. And there's the file. Interesting. So can I now oops. No, you have to be uppercase. Can I load mountain dot BBC? Bad program again. No, it doesn't work. We had this problem last time. So whatever we do just doesn't work. But DD2 would actually work. But DD2 was typed in, created on this machine. DD2 is that program, that DD writer program. That's just a straight source code again. And just to remind you what that did, it didn't create bars. There we are. It just goes into mode 2, or what it thinks is mode 2, and then just sits there. And doesn't actually draw anything. The minute you take, if it goes 70, the minute you start taking these CLG statements out, you do start to get something. You take 50 out. Yeah. So you sort of start getting back to where you were meant to be originally, and draw on this will work. But you see, it starts from the wrong place. It starts from the top of the screen, not the bottom. So you'd have to move to 0, 0, and then draw. There you go, 100, 100. Yeah. So I think some research in this is going to be needed, and I think this will be a good topic for the next 8 till late live stream. I'm hoping I might get a video done before then. Can't make any guarantees because obviously we're starting work on the 6th and busy time with cars, as I've already explained. But just to remind you then, although most of the Christmas time is or Christmas streams is done now, so I'll be back on the 11th of January at 11th of January 2025 at 8 o'clock, 2000 hours GMT for 8 till late. So I hope you'll join me for that. So reminder, there is no live stream on this channel this Saturday. Quick reminder once again that if you want to support me, if you enjoyed tonight and do want to support me, for those of you that don't already, then you can join the channel on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Wi-Fi Sheep. And as mentioned at the start of the stream, alternatively, we have YouTube channel members starting from 99 pence all the way up to £2.99. And just quickly, as Brian has just come in and said, would exec work in Z80 Basic if the BAS is text file? Do you know what? While we're here, should we just test that very quickly? Because I can't leave it on a cliffhanger like that. So let's just test that very quickly then. So what do you suggest? Hang on. Right. Okay. So, yeah. All right. I don't know. I don't. Okay, we'll try it. So you're suggesting we exec. Yeah, we'll try. Again, keyboards are swapped. So this keyboard is swapped to the other way, to the other one. Yes, that's why I'm getting me ats and me quotes the wrong way around. Right, let's just try this then. So dd.bas. Nope. Nope, not happy. Yeah, okay. Or do it properly. What, without the quotes, you reckon? And you go, Tom, do you even know any of BBC Basic? No, I do, but it's been such a long time. The problem is MTN is not a BAS file, it's a BBC file. I can try DD, that is a BAS file. BAS, it's just a text encoded file. Nope. We'll try it, but I don't think it'll execute. Nope. There we go. Yeah. So I was hoping this was going to be a little bit more compatible. I do know, thanks to those of you that actually reached out to me, mainly on Instagram, and have sent me videos to users guides of how to actually use the Aegon Light OS system. To be honest with you, I didn't look at it because I just assumed I already knew it, and it doesn't behave how you think it behaves, despite the fact it's mimicking the Acorn MOS operating system, and it's supposedly BBC Basic. And it is BBC Basic, but it doesn't quite behave the way that you've seen it behaving under the BBC Micro Emulator and on Risk OS. So, yes, it's BBC Basic. Is it compatible? Not quite. So that's all stuff we're going to have to try and figure out. And then, of course, adding to the confusion is obviously with what is Rio Basic, or the Tiny Basic for colour system that we're developing ourselves. That basic syntax is completely different once again and has its own operating system calls using the hash commands instead of stars. So what we call star is the asterisk. So you sort of go, you can go star help, for example, and that'll give you, and that universally works. Whereas, for example, on my system, it's hashtag, then whatever the system call would be. So anyway, yeah. Oh, well, yeah, thanks for that, Brian. It was worth a try. Yeah, I just need to figure out what it is I'm trying to do, basically. And that just comes with some reading. So, right then. Well, as I said, that is just about it for me for tonight. The time is exactly 20 to 1, 0:40 hours GMT. On January the 1st, 2025. Thank you all so much that have stopped by. And for those of you that are going to watch this on repeat, yeah, it's great to have your company all the same. And thanks so much once again. Have a great New Year's Day. From myself and Anna here at Wi-Fi Sheep headquarters in Shropshire, may I wish you a happy new year and a peaceful night. Once again, thank you so much, and a very good night.